But welcome, welcome, my beautiful sisters, to our Moon Lodge. This has been a long time coming for me to call us all together into the Moon Lodge for these teachings. So I'm really happy to see you. So most of us are here. I think we've got 44 women in our Moon Lodge circle here tonight. And over the next 6 weeks, you will gain an understanding of one of the most powerful and empowering, practical, simple teachings of feminine power. And my intention in sharing this is to support your flourishing and your empowerment. Because through this work, we can gain tools to navigate with greater excellence, with deeper self-love and trust, so that we can really flourish on all levels. In our health, this work really supports that. In our wealth, this work supports that through working with our excellences when our excellences are in their peak moment. In our relationships, will help us out of a few snaggles along the way. And in our life's work as women here in this world at this time. So it's great to be here with you in this sacred circle in the depth of winter. We've just come through our solstice, haven't we? To share these teachings. So I see many wise and awakening women here in this circle. Conscious, beautiful women on a path of spirit and conscious living. I'm interested, who here has received some women's teaching from, any tradition? You can just raise your hand, your real one. You can just raise your hand. Let's have a look through and have a good snoop and see. Oh, good number of us. That's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And who here hasn't received any women's teachings from any traditions? Let's raise your actual hand. Have a little look through. Okay. Oh, how wonderful that we can be here together tonight. And who's not sure? Raise your actual hand. Let me have a look through. Keep your hand up. Okay. Well, wonderful. There's always a few people we're not sure. So I'm originally from England, and I went to uni in and you can unraise your hands actually now if you like, the electronic hands. We'll just use our real hands in future because they're nicer. Originally from England, I went to uni and then headed to the United States in the spirit of to start my conscious adventure of adulthood there. And I came across the Native American path and Sundance. And so I was at Sundance when I received these teachings. Sundance is a ceremony where you don't drink any water for 4 days, no food, no water, dance in the hot sun for your prayer. You go into a trance-like state for your prayer, prayer for the waters, prayer for the earth, these kind of prayers that we carry in our hearts. And on day 2, I came on my moon. I started bleeding, And so I told the lead dance woman, I said, oh, by the way, I'm bleeding. And she said, oh, quick, pack up your stuff, get out of here. You can't be here in the dance if you're bleeding. Well, what do you mean? She goes, you've got to go to the Moon Lodge, pack everything up, quick, quick, come on, hurry, hurry. And I was like, what? But and I've been praying all year for this ceremony. And no, swept me off down to the Moon Lodge, which was at the farthest edge of the camp, the farthest over the hill and far away edge of the camp. And by the time I got down there, I was pretty grumpy. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? And sort of sat in the Moon Lodge with a handful of other women, a bit sulky, to be honest, and a bit like, moon time. And in the afternoon that day, the grandmothers came and they started sharing the teachings of the moon time. And over the next number of days, my attitude changed a lot because I started to receive these teachings and realize what an amazing blessing it had been to come onto my moon. So instead of starving and dancing over there, I'm over here receiving these like powerful, life-changing teachings. That was when I was 26 years old. And about 10 years later, 15 years later, I was reading a book called The Optimized Woman by Miranda Gray. And I was pretty amazed because in this book, and I recommend if you resonate with these teachings, I recommend you read it. Lena's, thank you, Lena. She just put it in the chat. This book, Miranda Gray had, by careful observation of herself, had pretty much revealed these teachings to herself. No one had taught her. She just observed and observed and observed. And these teachings came to light, I suppose. And so she wrote a book about it. And then she started teaching these teachings, especially in a business context, to professional women. And the results these professional women were having in their lives on all, the quadrants of their lives were wonderful. And that's what I myself had experienced from engaging with these teachings. It was then that I realized, oh, this is something I shouldn't keep to myself. I should really share them with my sisters. The grandmothers told me this belongs to all women. And so I started sharing these teachings in a 2.5-day workshop, in a weekend workshop. And yeah, they really sizzled. And I was delighted to be able to empower, the circle of women through sharing these teachings. Then my other offerings became very in demand. And so I put these teachings aside and I thought, okay, I'll come back to this when I have a minute. And well, here we are. I'm really happy to be able to call us together today and over the next 6 weeks for these teachings. So before we begin, I'd like to just share a few Moon Lodge protocols. So yes, this is a sacred space. Let's come together each week to this Moon Lodge with that spirit of this being a sacred space. Wear your favorite earrings. You can still wear your pajama bottoms, no one will know. But light your altar candle, smudge yourself, really enter the Moon Lodge consciously together. It might be Zoom, we may be in our home, but we are forming a sacred circle here together. And with that in mind, let's make sure that when we are receiving these teachings, there's no one else in the room, off to the side or behind the screen, that sort of thing. This is private women's business. Obviously, if a kid wanders in or out, or a cat, that's fine. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. In terms of the chat box, let's only use that chat box for, logistical essentials, perhaps contacting the co-host, which is Lena. Thank you, Lena. If you have any logistical issues or whatever. Let's not use it to sort of go, oh my God, Julie, your hair looks amazing. When did you get it cut? That sort of thing. Well, we won't do that. As we enter the Moon Lodge, as we did today, we'll enter muted, and we'll just spend the first few moments just kind of arriving into this space together, rather than that sort of chatty start. And let's stay on mute until we need to speak. And then after we've spoken, we'll go back on mute. Yes, please make sure the name on your screen is the name that you'd like to be called. And also, please be sure to bring a journal and pen. If you need to duck off and get one in a moment, I'll just give you a moment for that. But every week, we'll be working with a journal and pen. If you have a question throughout the session, what I would love you to do is to write it down. Yeah, it might be that it gets answered later. It might be that it doesn't. And I'll open the circle for questions later on. And we really value your question. Chances are, if you have a question, someone else in this circle is already wondering that. So we really value your questions, yeah? But my preference would be not to be interrupted in the flow, but for us to be able to come back and revisit it. Of course, your mute button is a voluntary thing, so you're always welcome to, butt in if it's super important. But that's my request. Bring a cup of tea to our sessions in true women's circle style. And if you need to eat dinner in our sessions, that's fine. I mean, it is dinner time. But my request is that you don't just kind of guiltily scoff it down, but instead you really bring your meal and enjoy it and chew it and digest it well and really feel that's welcome here. We won't take any breaks during the hour and a half together. Just kind of got a bit too much to share with you, really. But if you need to duck off to the loo, obviously, please do. If you're on the phone, you could take us with you, but you could do the mute and the stop video sort of thing. Screens. Yeah, we spend a lot of us spend a lot of time looking at screens. So I'm actually going to suggest that sort of moving forward from here, if you would like to, leave your screen on, but just, move your computer or your screen to the side so you can still hear, you can still come and engage if you want to, but that your eyeballs aren't just stuck on the screen. Maybe you're looking at your altar, or maybe you're even doing some arts and crafts. You're welcome to bring that next week. It's not necessarily, stay engaged, but yeah, don't feel that you have to look at the screen. In fact, probably better if you don't, yeah. I mean, I'm just going to be sitting here doing what I'm doing now. You won't miss anything. Yeah, although you'll miss my beautiful smile and my wonderful earrings. So as per all women's circles, any personal things that we share here, stay here. We create a sacred container where we can let our hair down and share candidly. Yep. So those are our Moon Lodge Circle protocols. Just raise your actual hand if you're in agreement with that, if that sounds good to you. Yay. Wonderful. Great. We're all in. And yeah, we won't raise our technological hands. We don't need to do that. So what's your intention for joining us here? Or actually what I'd like to know is, why did you say yes? What do you hope to get from this time together over the next 6 weeks? Maybe you're not crystal clear about that. That's okay. But let's take a few moments to think about that. And then I would love if you just put a sentence or two, if you want, into the chat box. And let's just see what our intentions are in coming here. Go ahead and do that now. what you hope to get from being here, why you're here. And if someone's not on mute, you could just go on mute because we can hear you rustling. That's it. Fire them into the chat box. Send them to everyone. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful intentions here, aren't they? Can start to get a sense of who we are to here together as a circle as we read each other's wise intentions. Beautiful. Thank you. So the grandmothers tell us that, these teachings belong to all women of all lineages. So why didn't my grandmother teach me about this? Why didn't your grandmother teach you about it? Well, we say that it's because they didn't know, because these teachings got lost. But sisters, these teachings, they didn't get lost. Lost is like when you put down your keys somewhere and you can't remember where you left them. That's lost. These teachings didn't get lost. They were brutally removed from our lineages. During the burning times, the burning of the witches in Europe, from 1490 to 1780, hundreds and hundreds of fires raged throughout Europe. And women like you and women like me, independent, wise, spiritually orientated women, were thrown into the fires. And literally tens of thousands. And 300 years, if we say a generation is like 30 years, that's 10 generations of women. That's 10 generations of mothers who did not want to see their daughters in that fire. So these became mothers who, to protect their daughters, did not teach them herbal law, did not teach them midwife law, did not teach us the sacred law of our moon time and of our cycles, who taught us instead to be compliant, to please a man, to be pretty and sweet, and ever so non-threatening, because the option, if you weren't, well, essentially those lineages died out. Yeah. Only the lineages of women that taught their daughters to be compliant, and then those daughters grew up and taught their daughters to be compliant, and those daughters grew up and taught their daughters to be compliant. Sit with your legs shut, talk like this, don't do that, just to keep you safe. And the amazing thing is, after these 10 generations of women that lived through burning times, there was never a sorry. There was never, oh, okay, sorry, guys, sorry about that. We've put the fires out. You're safe now. You're fine. Don't worry about it. There was never that. Just the fires went out one by one around Europe, and we tiptoed away from them, and we didn't say anything about it. We don't want them to get lit again. We just tiptoed off. And the generations continued. And no one said sorry. It's incredible. I've done the research. There's one plaque in a forest in Sweden, one and only plaque in the whole of Europe, in a forest in Sweden. And it says something like, "Here we threw our beautiful women into the fire." This plaque is to commemorate that, so we never do that again. It's the only place in the whole of Europe that mentions this history. So, and that's just Europe. I mean, we're not even talking about women in Africa or in the Middle East. We're talking about our European lineage. So the question is, what is it truly to be feminine? What is feminine power? It's been said that when you see the feminine, you see the shadow of the whip. I find that a very provocative quote, statement. When you see the feminine, you see the shadow of the whip. In other words, you see the shadow of 10,000 years of patriarchy and 10 generations of religious patriarchal suppression. So we, sisters, are here to explore and reclaim our true, authentic feminine power together. Yes. So we're actually among the first generations of Western women who can be self-determined, who can choose whether to have kids or not, who can decide how many. I mean, imagine being forced to have 10 of them, no contraceptive, and a man who considers you his property, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty outrageous. So what I'm saying is, this is kind of a new situation. And so our opportunity, and you could say our responsibility, is to take this opportunity and allow the sacred feminine to come blazing through us at this time in all her gentleness and her power to rebuild the feminine on this world, her confidence, her trust in herself, in her body, in her power, in her voice, in her knowing, this power of the feminine. So I guess the key takeaways here, for me anyway, are for us to be very gentle on ourselves as we're in this process of flowering our feminine power, because this is kind of the foundation from which we are flowering, of the disempowerment of the feminine for a very long time. And the second takeaway for me from this, what I've just shared, is let's take this opportunity seriously. This opportunity to cast off the oppressive past, not only externally, but internally, more important. The part that, denigrates ourselves, the part that, that lacks confidence. That's not our true sacred feminine power. That's the past. That's the history. That's his story. That's those 10 generations and beyond and more. Yeah, so let's take this opportunity together to cast off this oppressive past and stand together to support one another in love, because this world needs feminine wisdom and brilliance more than ever. Yeah, and let's face it, we are brilliant. Yeah. It reminds me, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love men. We love our brothers, but I just want to straighten up a few things here. It reminds me of this cartoon I saw, like it was like a picture, black and white, 50s, two 50s women in the 50s. One was interviewing the other in an office. And the woman who was interviewing, she's saying, well, we're actually looking for someone who can do the work of two men here. And the other woman, the one who's being interviewed, she's saying, oh, so it's just part-time. So women are amazing. We are amazing. We have amazing capacity, as we know. And this is new territory we're walking. So let's reclaim these simple teachings and boldly bring our excellence into this world for the greatest good of all. Raise your hand if you're with me on that one. Two hands, yes. Beautiful. So let's begin. If you brought with you a candle and some smudge, go ahead and let's light this candle. And as you light this candle, make that prayer. Let this be the lighting of the light of the feminine power in this world to empower the amazing wisdom and love and power of the feminine all over this world. Make that prayer, light your candle. And go ahead and just hold this candle up into the center of our moon lodge so we can see one another's prayer lit, bright, and shining. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And then, thank you. And then if you brought some sage or some smudge with you, just go ahead and sage yourself. Sage off the last 10,000 freaking years of patriarchy. Sage off those 10 generations in our lineages. Just sage it out of here. And if you didn't bring any, I'll send you some. You can just waft it energetically around your being. There, that's for you. Liberate yourself at that deep sort of level that we can't even quite fathom through your intention with this beautiful sage or Palo Santo or whatever you have there. Liberate your voice, your consciousness, your crown, your heart, your beautiful body, your womb, your yoni, your footsies. Any of us who may have suffered bound Chinese bound feet in some lifetime or other. And then go ahead and send it out around the world. Send it to our Iranian sisters, our African sisters, our sassy sisters all over this world. Blessings to you, dear sisters. The teachings tell us that all women in the world, we are sisters. Oh, good. So men and women are different from one another. We know that. That's the spice of life, isn't it? Um, and also the big pain in the ass. Why can't they be more like us? Um, and we love our men. Masculine and feminine energy work differently. We know that. And of course, we have both within us. We have masculine energy, we have feminine energy. But when we have incarnated into feminine form, then it's at the fundamental biological level, feminine energy that is predominantly running through us. Now, masculine energy could be described as linear, as solar, sun, as straightforward, logical, driving forward, and simple, actually, just one step at a time. We could talk about masculine energy in that way. Feminine energy is cyclical. It is intuitive. It is complex because it is cyclical. It has a cycle of changes. It's about change. And in the case of the feminine body, powerful hormonal changes that change how we feel on any given day and where we want to put our energy. But this world is still structured as a man's world, and it requires us to be linear, to be consistent, to be driving forward, to be logical. And yes, we can do that. I mean, we have both sides within us. We can do that. But it can be very dry. It can be very exhausting and ultimately unsatisfying for the feminine to have to keep that up endlessly. See a few heads nodding. Anyone else agree with me on that? Yeah, yeah. And that's where our teachings begin. Over these next 6 weeks, I'm going to learn a uniquely feminine approach to riding the wave of personal excellence by understanding a cycle of changes that moves through your body every day and on a monthly basis if you're still bleeding. And by understanding the powerful rhythms moving through our body and through our psyche, we can access heightened abilities, actually. That's what's so exciting, I feel, about this work, is we can access heightened abilities that we have access to at different points in our cycle. We can harness those. And we can also feel less rocked and destabilized by the changes that move through our psyche. And yes, it can sometimes make us feel crazy. And so these teachings, in essence, support us in that way. Now, in today's world, we've not been taught how to work with this powerful force rolling through our body every month, rolling through our psyche every month. this cycle of changes and heightened capacities. We have not been taught this because it doesn't exist in a man's world. This doesn't apply to the masculine. So they have no knowledge of this, no experience of this. In fact, that's why they look at us and they go, what the fuck? You can't understand, you know? In fact, I'm thinking of sharing these teachings with men in like a 2-hour masterclass, just giving them like the bullet points. And that's what I'm thinking of calling it, WTF, Understanding Woman. And I think it'll really help our relationships a lot if we just give these guys a bit of a heads up. So in fact, you know, what's amazing is this powerful cycle of changes, the only visibility that it has in our contemporary world, the only visibility that this powerful cycle of feminine power has in our contemporary world is that it shows up as an annoying sanitary inconvenience once a month. Hence the need for these teachings. So I'm curious, um, what were you taught about the moon time? How about we just take a few minutes now to pull out our journal and pen and just jot down in bullet points, you know, what were you taught about the moon time, you know, in the beginning, when you first came into your moon? And by moon time, I'm talking about menstrual cycle. We call it moon time, of course, because traditionally, when we're in sync with the cycles, it's a moon cycle. It's a 28-day cycle. Traditionally, women would bleed on the dark moon, ovulate on the full, and this is why we call it a moon cycle. Today, with you know, lights and all of these things that disturb our deeper cycles, that might not be the case for most of us. Some of us might not be in that moon cycle at all, but that's why we call it moon cycle. So yeah, what we jot a few things down. What were you taught about your moon cycle when you first came into your moon cycle? And perhaps a few things that you've learned about it since then. 2 minutes. You just jot those things down in your journal right now. Sorry, I forgot to say go and get a journal if you didn't bring one. Might have to run and get one. What were you taught about the menstrual cycle when you were introduced to it first? About it since? What knowledge or wisdom do you have? Just jot that down. Let's take a full 30 seconds to complete that. And then also jot down, what do you call the moon time? What what are your words for it? How do you describe it or talk about it? And how were you welcomed into your fertility, into your bleeding? Cast your mind back to that fateful day. Um, how were you welcomed in? What happened? Just jot down a few words just to stabilize your memory there. For me, I was in a school assembly and I stood up and there was blood all the way down the back of my skirt. Some of the feelings associated with that first bleed. And how do you feel about your moon time now? How do you feel about your moon time now? Just jot down a few words. How you feel about it? And then lastly, the last question is which women that you might know or know of personally, or maybe they're famous or something, that really embody sacred feminine power to you? Who are our sacred feminine power role models? Or maybe just feminine power role models? And why? What qualities about them? I'll just put those questions in the chat. Um, what I'd love us to do, actually, why don't we just go break into smaller groups for a minute and just meet each other and share our reflections on these questions. What I'd love for us to do, Lena, if you could put us into groups of 3, and I think that there'll be a couple of groups of 2, but if you could put us mostly into groups of 3, and then what we'll do, sisters, is we'll go into these smaller groups and let's take 4 minutes each to introduce ourselves, say hi, and then to share our reflections on the questions that I've just asked. You've got the answers in front of you. If you're wondering what the questions were, I've just put them in the chat. So take 4 minutes each. And the way that we can do it is once you get into the breakout room, the Zoom room, the smaller group, the person with the shortest hair can go first. Once they've done their 4 minutes, they hand it over to whoever they want. They just choose a woman to hand it over to. Okay. Now, let's see. What else I want to share about that? Oh, yeah. So you'll know when the 4 minutes is up because this tiny little thing will come, sign will come onto the screen, so small, and it'll say change person now, and it'll stay for like a fraction of a second. It's so annoying. I really want to write to Zoom about that. Yeah. So it's possible that the person speaking won't even see that, right? So that's the responsibility then of the group. Whoever sees it, if you could just raise your hand and just let them know, like do the little 4 minute sign so that the person who's speaking will know. Yeah. Because I'm sure if that's you, you'd be mortified to sort of be speaking for 8 minutes and not be able to hear from another sister. So it's a service we do to for each other. If you see that little sign, just let them know 4 minutes is up. Yeah. And then we'll go around the circle. When it comes to the last person, you'll see a little sign that says breakout rooms finish, close in 60 seconds. Don't anyone click any buttons or don't do anything at that point. Yeah, Zoom will bring you back without you doing anything. Yeah, if you start clicking buttons, oh, it'll be chaos. You'll be sent off here, there, and everywhere. So don't click any buttons at that point. It's just really Zoom trying to let you know that you've got 60 seconds left and you're going to be wrapped up, whether you like it or not. That's how it works. So in a moment, Lena is going to put us into Zoom rooms, and you'll see a little sign. I think it's a little blue sign will come up on your screen saying join room 3 or whatever. Click on that, and then you don't have to click on anything else. 12 minutes later, so that's 3 people with 4 minutes each, you'll be brought back. If you're in a room just with 2 people, well, you've got 6 minutes each to share, and I don't know how you're going to organize that, but we're all intelligent women, so I'm sure you'll figure it out. Yeah. Are there any questions? Come off mute if you have a question about what we're about to do. Okay, I have a feeling we've all done this before. Good. Okay, Lena, if you could open the Zoom rooms and send us into our little groups. Did you press buttons? I think you did. I say don't press anything. These are all the button pressers club. Yay. Was it good to meet each other and share a little bit about all of this? Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Yeah, that's a good way of saying yes, I agree. Yeah. Either like both hands is like, ooh, double whammy, or just single is like, yeah, yeah. Great. So, broadly speaking, there are 4 seasons of womanhood. Lena, could you put us on spotlight? There are 4 seasons of womanhood. But actually, as we know, none of us are actually essentially men or women, are we? We are this pure presence. We are this luminous field of awareness, of wakefulness, that we can touch and explore in our meditations. This luminous field of wakefulness has taken form as woman, and henceforth I'll describe us as women, with the understanding that, yeah, we are the eternal spirit, actually. So there's actually five stages, seasons of womanhood. There's child, there's maiden, there's mother, there's wise woman, which is as you come through the initiation portal of menopause, and then there's elder, 5 stages of womanhood. And the teachings of sacred feminine power, these particular teachings, refer to maiden and mother stages, the fertile years, or the years when you're bleeding, like that. I look forward to next year to sharing the teachings of perimenopause and menopause, which is an unbelievably powerful initiation. It's a death and rebirth next level. And I look forward to sharing with you about that once I'm fully through it. But in the meantime, just wish me luck. Let's so where was I? Yes. So the sacred feminine power teachings refer to the 2 stages of a woman's life when she's in her bleeding cycle. And this is the thing. The entire 28 days, the entire menstrual cycle is a cycle of changes. It is actually a cycle of feminine creative energy expressed in all its forms. So let's take a look at this cycle of changes and what it calls us to at different points of this sacred cycle. So I'm going to bring up a slide here for those of us who aren't looking at the screen. You might want to look at it now. Oops. Oh no, what have I done? I have put myself in slide. How do I get out of it without sharing it? Ah, there. Okay. What I'm going to do is print, share screen. That's what I'm going to do. There. So here we have this cycle of changes. And at the bottom, oh dear, can't really see the bottom of it. Okay, we'll have to take it from me. At the bottom of it, it says day 1. If you can see my mouse here, it says day 1 underneath here. And then that cycle moves around here to day 7. Can you see where my mouse is? Here, day 7. I'm leading you through the map. And then up to the top here, day 14. And then around here to day 21. And then down to the bottom of day 28. And then to day 1 again. So this is the cycle, and this is the direction that it moves, this cycle of changes. at the bottom, and sorry that you can't see that, probably. At the bottom, it says day 1, and it also says winter, and it also says bear. I'm going to explain all of this in a moment. This is the overview. Here at day 7, it's the spring, the energy of spring, and the spirit of the eagle, guided by the spirit of the eagle in this medicine wheel. And here it says day 14 at the top. This is the spirit of summer and the dolphin. And down here, day 21, autumn and whale. Okay. So that's pretty simple. So this image shows a cycle of based on 28 days. Some of us have a cycle of less, some of us have a cycle of more, but the average is 28 days. It's tied to the moon, and so we're going to work with 28 days, even though you may be more or less. So once again, I want you to get really familiar with this image. So with this map, actually, this is a medicine wheel. And a medicine wheel is a map of spiritual teachings where each part, you can unpack each part of the medicine wheel into different levels of teachings. So day 1 at the bottom, which you might not be able to see it, I can't anyway. Day 1 is the first day of your bleed. Day 7 is day 7 of the after that, that's how it works, yeah? So all of the seasons have a different feeling, don't they? Winter feels different from spring, feels different from summer, feels different from autumn. And each place on the cycle has a different kind of feeling to it when we start to notice, as Miranda Gray of the Optimized Woman started to notice, and as the grandmothers asked me to start to notice, and as I'm asking you to start to notice. So we're now building an overview of the map of the teachings. So before we go any further, is there anyone here? I mean, obviously I haven't explained anything, but is anyone here not quite sure what we're looking at, doesn't really understand before I proceed? If so, just come off mute and say, yeah, whatever your question is. Okay, good. It's simple enough. Great. So roughly speaking, where are you today in your cycle? You might know exactly what day you are. Or there we go. You might know exactly what day you are, or you might not, but you'll know, are you bleeding? Roughly, are you close to spring? Roughly, are you close to summer? Roughly, are you close to autumn? Just get a sense of where you are in this cycle of changes. Now, if your cycle is shorter or longer, it's actually the first half of the cycle between day 1 and day 14 that makes it shorter or longer. Because from day 14 to day 28, apparently it's quite stable. That's not the part that's changing. It's the part at the beginning between day 1 and day 14. So knowing that, if your cycle is, say, shorter, then you can say, oh, instead of there being 14 days between winter and summer, my cycles, you might say 4 days less. So I've actually got 10 days between winter and summer, which means spring is at day 5. You know what I mean? Have a think about it like that. Okay, so now I want to share with you a little bit about how the energies work. And this is just the overview. So at the bottom here, we have day 1 and we have bleeding. And essentially, around about day 1 to day 4, if it's got that winter energy, we are feeling inward. We've got low energy, low stamina. We're in hibernation. The capacity for deep reflection and a sense of peace is available to us if we can put ourselves in the right environment for that. We can connect to what's important to us, actually, beyond all the noise and the glitter and the glitz and the busyness. We actually feel like we go in and can connect with what's actually really important to us. There's a lot more to share about Bear, the teachings of Bear, the teachings of Winter, the teachings of the Moon Lodge. And it's one of my favorite parts of this cycle of teachings. Then we move round to day 7. So the first 4 days, we might be bleeding, 5 days or 3 days. And as you can see, this is a color that we've colored this in, because you can see that there's no real abrupt going from blue at the bottom to sort of red in spring. Every day it shifts just a little bit more. The hormones shift in their balance. So every day you're moving from day 1 to day 7, you're moving more towards the spirit of eagle, the spirit of spring. And it's in spring, this is an initiating energy, this eagle, day 7, where we start to feel a sort of surge in confidence, in gathering stamina and willpower, where our intellect actually becomes a lot sharper, like an eagle. And we have a strong urge to make changes in the world and to have an impact on the world around us. It's a good time to move our goals along, to make goals and visions. We're very action orientated, and it's the best time to initiate action. It's, in a way, you could say it's when we're most aligned to the sort of classical, male energy. Then we move around, day by day. That eagle energy shifts over the next number of days towards day 14, summer, the dolphin. And this is our sort of ovulation time, where there's less willpower and action vibes, and we are more other orientated. We're more heart orientated. We are much more sensitive to other people's needs. We're really attuned to the tribe, as it were. Our emotional and relationship skills are heightened. It's a really good time for people management. It's a time to really support and nurture our projects rather than drive them. And it's the point in the cycle that is considered, in our society as the most typically, you might say, female or feminine, nurturing orientated, beauty, joy, tribe, dolphin spirit. And as much as we might like to stay there, the cycle marches onwards, and we move now, day by day. The energy of summer and dolphin starts to wane, and the energy of whale or autumn starts to kick in. And this is the phase that most women find most difficult. You know, it's the premenstrual phase. And so the teachings of whale are really important because they really support us to navigate that in a brilliant way. It's often seen as negative because of the emotional disruption that kind of moves into our field. But actually, that's a really powerful time for change and growth and healing. I've seen the autumn or the whale time described as the time of the shaman, as it were. It's like the spring phase, we are more self-orientated. We have an active desire to drive and do things, but we have got a reducing stamina and physical energy. We have strong emotions and passions can blow through at that time, but we also have deep creative urges and a sense of soulful connection. But when that's not nurtured, we can feel extremely frustrated. We have a low tolerance for not following our own energy at that time. At that time, we can be very connected to what's not working. By the way, if you're trying to take notes and you feel like I'm going too fast, don't worry. Each week, we're going to unpack this. We're going to explore this. I'm just wanting to give you a bit of an overview so that you can get a sense of, you know, an eagle's view, really, on our medicine wheel on this map. In autumn, in whale, we have what's possible is actually creative leaps of insight. And I feel that the whale, the autumn time, is the time that's least understood by women. Well, also moon time. And it's calling us to slow down as we move down towards the winter phase. So you can see, can't you, dear sisters, that trying to be consistent and trying to be the same woman all month long is, well, it creates friction. It creates tremendous friction. And, you know, no wonder men are baffled. When we grant ourselves the freedom to be who we are, you know, whatever phase we're in, we can generate feelings of self-acceptance, validation, and self-confidence. And we can also start to move with our heightened capacities and our excellences. We can understand ourselves. And we can stop looking to be consistent. And we can start actually working with our brilliant inconsistency, which actually is consistent, but just on a cyclic, or actually, it's actually spiral, you know, on a spiral fashion. So we'll go into depth on each one of these positions on the medicine wheel. We'll unpack the teachings. We'll try them on. We'll see how we can work with them over the next coming weeks. So we are at 8:29. Got 1 minute to go, and I have just a couple more things I'd like to share with you very briefly. But I'd like to open the circle. If anyone has any questions, Lena, could you, oh yeah, if anyone has any questions, Lena, perhaps you could put us on gallery view. You know, with the understanding that we're going to unpack it all in future. In fact, next week. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to come off mute if you do.
Can I ask a question, Sarah?
Yes, please do.
It's Katrina.
Katrina, hi.
Hi. I just want to clarify that you said there were 4 seasons, which I've heard before, and then when you went through them, then there were 5.
Yes.
Um, is that right?
Yes, I said 4, and then I said, no, sorry, there are 5. There are
Oh, okay.
five seasons in a woman's life, or considered. You could say there, you could also say there were 4, I guess, but I'm saying there's 5,
Yeah.
in a woman's life, and we transit through these, and each of them has their initiations, or traditionally do. Um, yes, but I spoke incorrectly. I'd said 4 because I was thinking of the 4 positions in the medicine wheel of the monthly cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, because I've just heard them referenced as different things before, and only 4. I don't think the child is in the other.
Yeah, well, that would be right. However, a child is a feminine creature, so
Yeah.
I add her in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not a woman, but she's a feminine creature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Katrina.
Thank you.
Lots of love to you, sis. Anyone else has a question that's burning at this point? Just to
Yes, Sarah, it's Vasha. Just
Gosh,
leading on to Katrina, my question was the same. So the 5 stages, I missed. What was the 5th one? There's child, maiden, mother, wise woman. What was the 5th one?
elder.
Elder. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Mm.
you. Yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Basha.
Hello, I'm Luna here.
Hey, Luna.
I'm waving so you can.
I can see you. Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
That helps.
So I have a question about cycle length, and so I've always, ever since I first bled, had a short cycle, somewhere in the vicinity of 24 to 25 days. And it does seem to be that springtime that I get less of. And as I enter my perimenopause portal, what's happening in my cycle is often that I'm getting even less and less spring. And I'm curious what the kind of your thoughts about the energetics or the kind of shamanics of that are, and yeah, what, just curious about that.
Yeah, we can discuss that a lot more as we go through the cycle. But essentially, my perception of that is that perimenopause, you're moving basically into autumn, into whale, and menopause is essentially a whale on steroids. Yeah, with all its difficulty and all its incredible powers that open up. And so, yeah, as you move more and more into perimenopause, you're experiencing more and more whale and less of everything else. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May the force be with you, sister. Yeah. 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 Good. So if I can just take 2 minutes to set us up for next week. This has been the overview. Lena, we'll send out an email and I'll put that beautiful slide, actually, Lena made it, of the cycle in the email so you've got it. But this is basically the mandala of the teachings that we will be zooming into detail on. Next week, we will start at day 7, because this is where it's best to start anything, is on day 7, at that initiating, with that initiating energy of eagle, the clarity and the vision, the energy and the stamina. That's the place to start something. So we'll start there and we'll explore eagle. Now, rosemary is one of the plants that supports us in eagle. So if you're able this week to get some sprigs of rosemary, perhaps from your garden, perhaps from a neighbor's, And next week, be drinking rosemary tea. All you do is you put a sprig in a hot cup of water. You don't need a tea bag. That's your tea bag. That's it. So bring a cup of rosemary tea. Also, I'd like you to bring an intention. Now, I asked you already, why were you here? And that might be your intention, but what I mean by that is, we've got 5 weeks together, starting next week, let's say, when we dive into the teachings. This week's just been, hello, here's the overview. We've got 5 weeks together. Why not use that 5 weeks? This is a 5-week portal together for something. Maybe you want to deepen in your meditation of this 5 weeks. Maybe you want to open your creativity in this 5 weeks. Maybe you want to love yourself more in this 5 weeks, nurture yourself. I don't know. You can tune in. How do you want to leverage the fact that we are here every week in circle together, deepening in these sacred teachings? So I'll ask you to bring an intention for these 5 weeks. I will also ask you to know which day of your cycle you are. So you might say, I am on day 5 of a 26-day cycle. And if you are shorter or longer in your cycle, take a moment to get your head around it, to adjust what I showed you to your situation. So, okay, I'm 26 days. So the last 14 days is consistent. So that leaves 12 days. So that means my winter to summertime is actually 12 days, not 14 days. So on my chart, it should say 6 instead of 7. That kind of thing. Like get your head around your own, how you map onto that. Yeah, that'll be really useful. That's what I'd love you to come with next week. I'll put that in the email that'll go out after this session. And if you don't, how many women here, let's go on to gallery view. How many women here have an altar, a sacred altar in your home? Let's put our real hands up. We look through. Yes, a good few of us. So thank you. So those of us who do, find something that represents sacred feminine power to you and place that on your altar, because this is our prayer over the next 6 weeks. And if you don't have an altar, why not think about setting up a little spot that can be an altar? What makes an altar? Well, I think essentially what makes an altar is a little altar cloth that shows this is the altar, a candle that you can light to activate it, maybe a one or more things that you consider to be sacred. You can see maybe behind me, my altar here, I've got Tara, the goddess Tara. You might find a rock or a piece of wood and it represents Mother Earth or whatever for you. And just set up a little altar for these 6 weeks and put something on that altar that represents sacred feminine power. And ask this thing that you put there, whether it be a rock or a goddess or whatever it is, ask this thing to start to teach you about sacred feminine power. And it will. It will show you little insights, little aha moments. It's fun and beautiful. Good. So it's time to bounce. But before we do, I'd just love everyone to put 1 word or 3 max, just how you're feeling at this point in our teachings. Yeah, just put a few, how you're feeling about the teachings, how you're feeling now that we're at this point in our journey. Grateful, grateful, grateful and excited, curious, excited, grateful, curious, open, excited, inspired, glad to have arrived, wonder, united, inspired and excited, heartful, thoughtful, curious, excited, curious, engaged, grateful, on track. Wonderful. Frequency shift. Oh, reflective. Great. Curious, grateful, reflective, receptive. Beautiful. Well, thank you, sisters. How I'd like us to leave our Moon Lodge is, in a moment, we're all going to come off mute. And in a moment, we're all going to say a word or a phrase that we agree. And as we say it, we're going to click end or leave as we're saying this. Next week, I'll open the circle and say, what should we say? But just because we're running a bit late, I'm going to make it up this week. How about we say sacred feminine power? And as we say sacred feminine power together, we send out from our heart the empowerment of the sacred feminine through this one field of our one self. Send this beautiful energy out through the quantum field of humanity's heart, especially to our sisters. And as we say that, we click leave or end or whatever it is, and we're out of our Moon Lodge, but still connected. And we look forward to seeing each other next week. Okay, so hover your mouse over the red button that is the exit or leave or end or whatever it says. Oh, before you do that, come off mute. Or can you make us? No, you can't make us come off mute. Can you? Yeah, everyone come off mute. Yes, very good. Great. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then we say sacred feminine power. And we say it with the kind of spirit that just sends it rippling out throughout the universe. Ready? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, beautiful sisters. I really look forward to seeing you next week. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sacred
Sacred feminine power.
Power.